Episode 7. All right. It's the In the Mix podcast. You ready to do it?
Yep. I'm ready to do it. Let's go.
Let's go. You just want to jump right in.
Of course.
One of those days.
One of those days. You know, you have those days, people, and you have to you ride the emotion. Just go with the emotion.
What's the primary emotion you're having?
I think I woke up listening to, he's not sponsoring us yet, so I'm not going to say his name, but this motivational speaker.
No, you can name his name because then we're going to manifest.
Because he's a good guy. Eric Thomas.
Yeah. So the Eric Thomas vibes this morning got you pumped.
Yeah, this particular, the one like 2016 where it says, wake up.
Wake up.
So,
So
it
you're
talks
awake.
it talks about grind. It talks about I don't know, before I was listening to him, not always, but I think in the back of me, I had that kind of energy anyway, because I always think, and I don't know if this is bad, but it worked for me. I always thought people were better than me, like smarter, more clever, all that. I used to always think that. I was tripping. I'm pretty damn smart. But I always thought people were, so it pushed me to work harder. I know they're not getting up at 5. Oh shit, they're getting up at 5? I know they're not getting up at 4:30. Has been my mentality. I'm gonna get up earlier, work harder, stay longer than the guy with the PhD or the master's degree. I didn't necessarily have that.
Little fun fact.
Yep. Little fun fact about Joe. Now you see why I'm always grinding. That's because you're better than me.
But can you rest?
I do rest. When I do rest, like we did this weekend, I rest hard. Don't bother me. I rested so well, I was jumping into ice water. That's how
you were
relaxed
doing
and
you
crazy.
were doing cold plunge.
I was doing cold plunges. I did cold plunges 3. I did 3 or 2.
2. I think the last day you were feeling lazy. It was a little windy and cold outside. You said not today, but
I actually did when you left.
Okay, so the cold plunge, was that helpful for you? Did you enjoy that?
I love that. That was similar to, folks, a workout for me. It felt like my body felt, woof. Brain was ready to go. It's cold as hell. I don't recommend it for the weak heart.
No, they say it's life-changing. So that's awesome that you were able to.
But jumping into 40-something degrees water is no joke.
I don't think it was 40 degrees. I don't think it was 40 degrees.
Why you have to play with my dream? My story.
Well, I just don't want people to be afraid for you that you jumped into
a
frozen lake or something. It was a cold pool. It
takes you got to be below 10 or 11 degrees, before it starts freezing. So 40 is not. It could happen.
Okay.
If it was 50 something degrees outside. It's 58. You know that, right? Hold on, we could take 2 minutes of this. It was about 58 degrees there, right?
Okay.
So what do you think the water was? If it was 50 degrees outside?
I don't know.
A lot colder than that, right? So let's just say 10 degrees. 48 people.
Okay. You proved your point. You happy now?
Move on.
All right. You had inspirational Eric Thomas and a cold plunge. These are some of the tricks to the trade of how you rise and grind and you have energy.
Then you asked me how I rest, and I said, well, I must have been seriously comfortable with myself and relaxing. I wanted to take a cold plunge.
You do struggle a bit more with the rest side of things. You're better at the work than you are at the rest. To be completely honest, you do good resting, but not for long periods of time. You get antsy. Your
rest.
Yeah.
My rest type, yes, is good, but it doesn't. They're not the same.
No, of course not. We're not the same people.
Yeah, so they say, don't yuck my yum. I'm resting. So don't yuck my yum. You just rest differently. You rest, don't bother me. So like, I rest with, let me get up and I'll take well, you did that one day. You took a walk.
I took a walk every day.
Yeah.
I love walking.
But you not before 8 o'clock.
I love walking. What are you talking about?
It wasn't
I don't
8.
sleep in. That's not my thing anymore.
So when you get your time, that's when you do it?
I'm saying I literally do not sleep in anymore. That's not my way of rest. My way of rest is different. My rest
I used to talk about you like that, though. Do you know that, right?
I do.
I used to say, my wife on Sunday, you better not mess with her before 12.
But that's before we open this cafe. So moving along with the...
I think COVID did it to you, not cafe. Cafe, you're still chilling.
No, I was not ever chilling with this cafe. I don't know what you're talking about.
Your Sundays were. You took your Sundays.
No, I did not. Joe, please, let's get the story straight. I have not had Sundays or any days since opening this cafe.
Memory. Oh. That's a nice watch you got on. Is that a watch? Is that matching your pants? You are something else. Is that matching your pants? You are doing something else today.
Yes.
Look at you.
I have it upside down though, so I can't really see what time
it is. Isn't that like the what do they call it? The
leopard.
No, they call it when you get like past 30. It's women. What do they call them?
You don't know what you're talking about now. Please stop.
Cougar.
That's not what they talk about. A woman past 30 is not a cougar. That's not.
I meant the style. Like you.
What are you talking about?
I really not. Is this what happens
when you're awake? When you're awake, you start. Hey, you left your lotion on the set. Can you move that, please?
Oh my God. They
okay.
are not sponsoring us yet either. But
you're starting to make me feel like I have to be the mom here. Can you give me that?
We have people that can.
Oh yeah, the people in the corner. The people who can catch it.
They missed.
Okay.
Go on, babe. This is long. This is a 5-minute opening.
You said you needed just a minute to discuss your temperature, and look at how long it took you. So what I want to talk about in this episode is really for people to understand that this cafe that we have has a lot of...
Sorry.
Is this going to be one of those days?
I'm really sorry. I did not mean to clap that loud. It's my hands are fully lotioned, I guess. That was weird. Go.
You're channeling your Tony Robbins. Yes.
Yeah,
that's what
I was thinking it.
Well, I just was going to say, even though a lot of what we've done has been just in the moment trying to figure things out, a lot of what we do is also with clear intention behind it. Yeah. So, we have really made a commitment to a part of our biggest why and mission behind South LA Cafe has been to provide access and equity in our community for our community members into a bunch of different places, basically where people are not getting access to different resources and creating equity in spaces where they haven't been equitable. Right. And, 4 of the main sort of areas of focus that we have around that are around cultural reverence, which I'll break these all down, but cultural reverence, food justice, social impact, entrepreneurship, and restoring sovereignty. So today we're going to focus on the first 2 of these, and then we'll save the other 2 for the next episode. But really wanting to utilize these 4 areas of access and equity that we started the cafe around, continue to return to in terms of our work with the cafe, and really that are painting the backdrop for the social issues that are at play in South Central from the time of formation of the cafe, but even ongoing that we're still facing and dealing with. And so the first of those, or the first 2 today that I want to talk about, are cultural reverence and food justice. And so when we talk about cultural reverence, really I want to say it's an antidote to gentrification, but antidote makes it sound like it literally solves it, right?
Right.
So that's not really the right word, but it's a strategy and tactic, I think, to utilize as a way to slow down gentrification, or maybe I'll unpack it a little bit and we can come up with with the right term. But essentially, when you think about gentrification, when we were starting the cafe, there was this rise of gentrification, this rise of commercial development, this rise of an influx of people who are not from this community coming and living here, buying homes, opening businesses, starting nonprofits, creating projects, starting schools, really just coming in with a lot of very dominant energy of I'm here to improve this community. I see all the problems, that exist here.
Didn't ask anybody.
And
maybe some of them did.
And I want to just reserve some of our specific stuff around gentrification for a future episode that we're going to talk just about gentrification. But in this case, when you think about that, what happens is that people get displaced from the community. That's
the casualty part of it. That's what bothers me the most. But go ahead. You hit a nerve. Go.
People get displaced from the community, and so does the history and the culture of the community, right?
And people don't think about that. Those are the big things. When those people go, history goes with
who's
them.
left to tell the stories,
right? Who's
left to hold on to the culture, and not trying to make it like a race thing, but like the whitewashing of the culture, or of the history. It's like now a lot of the schools, when they're teaching about history or teaching about Black history, there's all these rules now about what they can and can't say. And they've cut out a lot of things that have actually happened so that the kids, when they're learning a very specific version of this history, but they're not learning all of it. Right.
Right.
So how do you preserve the culture? Right. That's what we're talking about, and create an actual reverence for this culture where people who come in, yes, can appreciate it, not appropriate it, right? There's a difference between cultural appreciation and cultural appropriation, but also
folks, we're in for education today. Yo.
That's true. That's another episode. Cultural appreciation versus cultural appropriation. Probably not to be taught by me, but somebody should probably take that as a college class or something like that.
Hampton teaches it.
Do they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go take your kids to Hampton. It's a nice college.
Yes, let's not tangent on that. Let's not tangent on that, because I know how much you're a fan of Hampton, even though you don't go there. But we'll talk about that another time. But what I want to just unpack is the way that the cafe systematically positioned itself as a cultural institution in the middle of South Central that would exist for cultural reverence of South Central culture, of the Black and brown folks that were originally here and that are here, and for the culture that has existed here, and that the cafe was for the people, by the people. So when you come to this cafe, our goal is for you to say, okay, I maybe grew up here, I go up and down this block, and I might feel like this community doesn't even look like my community anymore. There's people here. And
then you walk into our space and you go, home.
Yeah.
This is what it's supposed to be about. It's supposed to be new, fresh, clean, and feel like me.
Yeah.
And represent me. And why can't you do that in every community? It should be like that everywhere.
Yeah.
So anyway.
And so there's a lot of different ways that we do that I want to discuss. But one of the stories that I want to tell that will help sort of bring this to life is, when we were just getting ready to open up the cafe, was also when Nipsey Hussle was murdered right around the same time. And, obviously he was an iconic figure in our community. He was a musician. He was an entrepreneur. He was a perfectly imperfect human being, He was doing the damn thing in South Central. He was. And, when he died, you could see the impact that had on our community, the pain that brought up for people, about a million different issues that brought to light for people. But he really did become this South Central icon, that was going to be a part of our history forever.
And what's sad is I was here, and I probably seen him twice and had a conversation with him once. in those 2 times, I didn't even know who he was and didn't realize what he was doing. So that's
you have a history of having conversations with very famous people and not knowing who they are. But I love
twice.
I
in
love
my life.
that.
What are you talking about?
I love that you're so like, you're so unassuming and you're so open that people, you know, whoever they are, you have a conversation with them just like they're the same, you know, whether they're a famous person or whether they're just your neighbor, like everybody gets the same Joe and the full attention and the amazing stories. And so what,
okay, thank you. I'll take
you
that.
like how that story shifted. You were waiting to hear what I was going to say. But
right, but I wasn't trying to, but I thank you for that. But that's not what I was trying to say. I was trying to thank you. I received that. But I was trying to say it just seemed weird because I've been in this community all my life, and we were trying it with real estate. We were all over the place trying to make it affordable for people that lived in this community. That was our goal in real estate. So we were fighting the fight, and it was similar to what he was doing, and we hadn't crossed paths. So it's
well,
just.
I think actually one of the things you're bringing up is, you know, as far as our community-centered business model, it's like one of the things that we've learned from that is the importance of like building community. And I know it sounds so sort of cliche or like overused, but what happens a lot of times, people are grinding so hard, especially if you're an entrepreneur. You know, you got your head down, you're just trying to make it through the day. And can I
you can lift
crisscross my legs?
Yeah.
You're just trying to make it through the day. And then, you know, you don't have time to be talking to people and going to support other people and learning about what other people are doing. And one of the things that I love about what we created with Slack is that it really has become a central hub where, you know, people do come to us and spend time in our spaces and connect
the dots. That's what we're doing. We're connecting. You ever play that game?
Yes.
Dot. You don't win until all the dots are connected. All the dots separate, weak. You don't win the game, you lose. So when you start connecting the dots, you win the game.
So,
or I can relate that to a spider web.
No.
Okay. Don't get me started.
I'm tempted to let you tell that one, but I want to try and stay on the track, at least that was in my brain.
Okay, sorry.
Which was, I segued with what you were saying, which is what I was trying to say is you were like, okay, Nipsey and us, we were in the same community, but we really never really crossed paths, even though we were similar type of people doing similar types of things with same mentality about entrepreneurship and social good in our community. But my point with that was that even now, like so many people are doing great work and you don't ever make the connection because you're all working so hard to do, you know, just make it. Right. And so for us at that time, before we opened the cafe, we were doing our own thing, but we were just hustling to make it, you know? And then when we open up the cafe, just hear me out before you jump in. When we open up the cafe, we realized, okay, this is actually like a tool or the cafe is a tool to connect the dots and to bring the people together. And by us starting to recognize who's out there in the field, who's doing this great work, we can illuminate them, amplify them, continue to build the reverence for the culture that already exists. Because yes, some people have been displaced, and yes, the culture has shifted, and yes, it doesn't look like what it always did. But guess what? There's still Miss Anna at Project 43, you know, down on Crenshaw, you know, and there's still Doolins, you know, 30, 40, 50 years, his family's still here. You know, there's all these things still happening that people are still here, that we've now built those relationships.
27th Street Bakery.
About them. Exactly.
Five generations.
I didn't forget about them. I'm saying
5 generations.
These are examples of the dots that are being connected. But I brought up so this is all in the context of cultural reverence, right? How do we revere the culture of South Central? How do we do that? And how have we done that within our cafe? And so these are some examples that we're bringing up so far, but I wanted you to talk about the mural. Can you tell the story of the Nipsey mural? Because it
happened?
Yeah, the Nipsey mural and the Nipsey, the Hussle studio that we created became iconic fixtures of our cafe that, you know, the mural we have is probably one of the most shared images that people come just to come to our cafe to see, to take a picture by our Nipsey Hussle mural. That's what, how big you think that is? Like,
Jesus, I don't know. 10 by 15 is huge.
Yeah, I don't know about that big, but it's big. You think it's 10 by 15? Regardless, it's really big.
6 by 10.
6 by 10 sounds about right.
10. Yeah.
So it's really big and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it was painted by Muhammad Mubarak, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. But give him credit for painting it. It's just popping in my brain as a story because I remember the day that he brought it.
Oh my God. I was about to close. I was actually closing the cafe. And I think
we were just starting to open the cafe and get ready for it to open.
Right.
And Muhammad had been somebody that we met. He's an elder from the community.
So we used him to paint you see that big community connection. Yeah. That we had him because we knew that wasn't his work, but we wanted to put him to work. Because he was not getting much work during that time, so we didn't have anything else. We weren't doing we wasn't doing a mural yet. That was our plan. So he was on our list. So we asked him to paint that, and he painted it. And we talked a lot during that whole process. He was being too much of a perfectionist, but I'm glad he did because he did it very nicely. And people talk about how straight it is and all that good stuff. But anyway. Remember he painted the first one on the western,
and it was
slanted because it wasn't his fault. It was the building because it's a flat roof, slant, and he didn't take that into consideration, and it looked crazy. So we had him take.
We had to paint it over because that's the perfectionist in me. Because I was like, you only get one chance to make a first impression, and people are going to come to the cafe and they're going to think that our sign is crooked. So we had to take it down. But one day he shows up. I just remember one day he shows up with this massive mural.
I'll tell you how that happened. I was closing up, and again, I think they were having Taste of Soul that day, and he was he had a booth there, and he had a couple of his paintings, and then he had it for sale out there, and I guess this is so massive. Where are you going to put it? So, nobody was doing any hits. So he had it on the top of his truck. I don't even know if it had a sheet over it or anything. I just think he just had it roped up on the top of his truck. I think he had just given up on it because it was too big, so big. And he drove by and he says, and I saw him and I was like, man, what is that? And he says, oh, it's paint. He said, oh, you know what? I knew this was his plan. It'll go perfect in here. And I said, man, I can't afford that painting because I looked at it as gorgeous. I knew it would cost money. And I said, no. You can put it in here on consignment if you want. And, just thinking, my wife would love it. I made an executive decision. And he said, wait, got to give me something or whatever. I said, well, I don't have anything. I didn't have painting in my mind today. So he said, here, let me just put it in front of your door real quick and you see how big and nice it is. So he put it out where our first drawdown is, where we have coffee in South LA Cafe, and then we have coffee in front of the front door. He put it right there. And it was right, people were still just stuck on Nipsey, right? And it was man-sized painting. And I stood out in front of it, and I don't know if you know Western. Western is the busiest street in Los Angeles. We stopped traffic. People literally jumped out of their cars on Western and wanted to take a picture with this thing. And I'm sitting there watching this. And then, of course, the painter's going.
He's going, cha-ching, cha-ching.
See, I told you. And then it started people started doing it. And then more and more people, they got it crowded. The police motorcycle cop who used to hang around over there and give people tickets, rolled up on the sidewalk, talk about scratching the chalkboard, rolled up, LAPD, thank you very much, rolled up and said, man, could you take this thing inside because it's causing a serious jam? And, and I'm the cooperative guy that I am. I saw that it was a problem. And I let the people I said, let them finish. They took their pictures, and then I took it inside, and then you could tell what happened after that.
Yeah. And then we put it in our, at the time we had a conference room that we were we ended up calling the Hussle Studio, because we were like, where are we going to put this gigantic mural? And I was like, okay, I had actually designed for our conference room to have art on the wall. I just wasn't sure what it was going to be yet. And
you didn't think it was going to be that big.
I didn't think it was going to be that big, but what you're sharing about the story, it is my point about cultural reverence, right? And about why that is one of the areas of access and equity that we always focus on is, that is one of the things that when you put something out and you see that it touches the heart and soul of the people of your community, then you're onto something, right? So even without us intentionally beta testing, what do people think of this mural? By you putting it on the curb and seeing that the traffic is stopping, people are wanting to take photos of it. To this day, it's one of the most photographed, shared things about our cafe. That's a resonance factor. That's like an invisible energy.
Let's give our little neon sign a little credit too. They're close first and second. Go ahead. Sorry. But I'd throw that in there. Go ahead.
Sometimes what I was going to say might be better or more important than what you're going to say. You don't have to always say what you want to say.
Wouldn't be a podcast.
Hold your thought.
Wouldn't be a podcast if I wasn't me.
If I wasn't going to constantly interrupt your flow.
Exactly. Don't you get that? Go.
You're meant to talk, but not get your ideas out.
What?
That's what you're saying to me.
Oh, okay.
Talk, but don't finish your sentences.
Right,
okay,
go.
just make sure the first half of the sentence is really good, because you're not going to get to finish it. But what I'm saying is, to the point of cultural reverence and creating a space that is for the people, by the people, that people feel is built for them, right? Is a place that's special for them. Again, this wasn't like contrived. It wasn't like a sleazy strategic move, but it is strategic is what I'm trying to say. It's okay to be strategic if you're being intentional and it's aligned with your why, it's aligned with your mission, it's aligned with, these are the areas of access and equity that we're focusing on. And one of the things we want to do is create an alternative strategic move to gentrification, where people are feeling helpless and hopeless and feeling like they're not a part of what's happening. How can we make them come to this cafe and feel like, guess what? You can't control all of that, but you can control this one little moment in time when you're here and you made a choice and you came somewhere that you knew that you were loved and welcomed, and that you're going to look around and you're going to be like, oh my God, this is my spot. Right. And I love this place. So it's just so funny. I mean, it's not funny. It's just so cool that, you can talk about a coffee shop or you can talk about coffee, and not to diminish a coffee shop or coffee, but when it's so much more, it's a community center that's being built out of this coffee shop that is servicing all of the people of a neighborhood that have been underserved and underloved. And you can say, hey, come here. And when you come here.
And the newcomers too. It's about, everybody coming in together. Our intention is just what you said. And if I cut you off again, I'm sorry. Our intention was basically to build this for this community. That's it. And what it looked like before is what was in our mind. But we're about family. We're about neighborhood. We're about community. I mean, that's in one of our lines: coffee, community, connection. Right. So community means whatever community is there. The only way whatever thing's gonna ever, you want something to work, people have to talk. People have to they have to come together. And this turned out to be that spot, because newcomers are coming along with the people that were here long before, and it was, and I don't like the melting pot thing.
No,
it was a salad.
You already used this reference before.
I did. I can use it anytime. It's because this is when it was a salad in there, and people from the community, remember that time the friends that met hadn't seen each other in 40 years, and here they are just going on with their lives, and then we build this spot, and then they meet up there because they both wanted to go see what this spot is. And then they meet up, and brought me to tears. Brought them to tears.
Yeah, I mean that's
each other in 40 years.
The beauty of it, but that's because it's a place to see
community.
That stands for something. They're not just saying come to a coffee shop because there's 50 other coffee shops that were on their way to coming to South LA Cafe.
Yeah,
they're coming because they're saying, "Have you been to this coffee shop?"
We stopped a couple too.
What?
We stopped a couple from coming too. They like, dang.
I don't know what you mean.
I'm saying we stopped a couple of the big corporations from coming too because they were gonna take this area. They wanted our spot for a minute.
Okay, but let me finish what I'm trying to say, which is, if I can remember now, but is
look back at your notes.
It wasn't in my notes. It was in my brain. What I was trying to say to you is, yes, it's a spot for everybody, but also the people who come have to be people who understand the origination story and the intention behind the space was an anti-gentrification effort, which doesn't mean that people who are now new to the community who are so-called gentrifiers can't come and can't fit in, but they have to also be the type of people that can have the conversation and hear the real truth about how people feel. If you're somebody who's in the neighborhood and you're like, okay, I'm hearing all this stuff, I feel defensive, I feel unwelcome, I don't want to be a part of it, then no, this isn't the place for you. But if you're somebody who's like, I'm in the community, I don't know what I don't know, I want to be a part of it, I want to have the conversations, then yes,
that has been my experience 99.99% of the people that come in.
For sure. But I'm just trying to be clear. There is a difference. It's not, this is for everybody. No, This is not for everybody. This is not for white supremacists. It's not for, of course, like ignorant people. This is not for people who want to do toxic drama filled activities. Like this is not for people who want to be doing crime up in our spot. Like this is not for all those people. Right. This is for people who primarily are from South Central. We are here to honor the culture of South Central and the people of South Central. And if that attracts other people the
amazing citizens of South Central,
if that attracts people who are interested in cultural appreciation, not cultural appropriation, then they may come. So let me just say a few more loops on this, and then I want to transition to the second area of focus for equity and access in this episode, and then we'll transition to talking about the other two in the next episode. But before we just transition off of cultural reverence, I just want to note a couple other things that we've done, and this you can just take it in. Take it in. But just things like, we, even before George Floyd's murder, and the BLM, like the BLM movement that
I like to say Black Lives Matter, but go ahead. BLM.
What?
I like to say Black Lives Matter. You always say BLM, which is cool, hipster. Black Lives Matter. Go. I said I wasn't going to interrupt, but I just had to put that in there. Go.
Okay, but I just want you to remember that you don't like to be interrupted because you can't remember your thought when I do that. So you can't so actively interrupt me and expect me to hold my threads.
This is not therapy. Continue.
Okay. So when we put the Black Lives Matter photos of people that have been murdered by the police in our windows, that was one of the things we did when we first opened the cafe. If you look at photos from when we first opened the cafe, in the windows where BLM had contacted us and given us access to print these photos that were the faces and the names of not everybody, obviously, that's been murdered by the police, but by a significant amount of people. And we got them laminated.
And we put 60 or 70.
And we got them laminated and we put them all in the window of the cafe. And that was a very intentional decision because we were also trying to say, we understand that the police are out here killing people. You know, this is not a rah, 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 yay, police come on into our cafe spot. We are 4 blocks away from the police station. And we are very deeply rooted in a Black liberation movement politic, which this space is to support people who need a safe space to come and gather and not feel in danger and in threat and feel like they're not welcome in this space. And so that, from a cultural reverence standpoint, what I'm trying to say is that was another tactic and strategy that we used to create amplification and resonance with our community to say, here's something to stop you in your tracks, to look at that window and
before you even come in.
And what does that tell you when you see that? You know, I can't read the minds of a lot of people, but I can just tell you, I can imagine some people might say, wow, I know we've had people say that happened to my child. You know, can I put my photo up on the wall?
Remember
right?
That happening.
We had other people just stopping in their tracks, taking photos,
full tears,
you know, full tears,
emotional.
People coming in, wanting to talk about it, conversation pieces, right? So that was another thing that we did to create a ripple effect within our community of amplification of this. We care about preserving the culture, a reverence for the culture of the politics of the social issues that exist in this community. We're not afraid to speak to it and to be on one side or the other of the issue.
Right. And it like I hear you saying, it might have rubbed a few people wrong. And if they got rubbed wrong, or if they got rubbed and thought it was wrong, how about that? Not many said anything to me, but I hope it, like you said, started conversation. Got rubbed wrong and still came in and got information or at least asked about it. You know, that's what I hope happened, because I mean, we could talk about all the ones that did say something and saw the emotional, reaction to it. I'm just wondering about the people that because I'm sure it rubbed some people wrong, in their mind. And hopefully it was the ones that opened the conversations, because their account didn't go down. I didn't see people looking at the wall and go, oh, let me not go in there.
But if they had, that's part of what I'm saying is that.
Wow.
What?
I remember when we did that. There are some risk takers, man. We don't play. Damn.
Well, that's part of what I'm saying is that we're there to cut through it, because it's real easy to just act like nothing's happening. But part of why we started the cafe is because we saw that something was happening and it was making us have big feelings about it.
Happening every week and every other day. It felt like it was crazy.
And we have so much more privilege than our community members.
Right.
So if we're feeling so upset and moved by these issues and feeling ourselves displaced and feeling ourselves concerned about the watering down of the culture, imagine how it feels for other people who have been here longer than us, have deeper roots,
Nobody has deeper roots than me. Like my mom came here pregnant. So come on. Nobody has it. I rarely find people that are actually born in a house in South Central, or not in the house, but in this community, and raised and still here.
So no one has more long roots here in South Central than you. And I think because we've had so much that we want to talk about this cultural reverence topic, I think we'll really just focus on this one particular focus of access and equity for this podcast. And we'll go on to the second one for the next. And instead of 2, maybe it's going to be 4 episodes where we stretch and tease these guys out, because there's a lot to say. There's some other things that I was going to say is like another example is, recently for Dia de los Muertos,
right,
we had an ofrenda set up, and, our, our staff, from the Latin culture were like, hey, let's do this thing. This is part of our tradition. We think that the community would really love this, and
had people coming in. We
had people coming in, bringing photos of their ancestors, of their loved ones. People have passed on their animals,
Burning. One lady's burning sage.
Right. But how many coffee shops do you know that are doing that with authenticity, not just because it's the cool thing to do, or like, oh, we're all wearing our, whatever History Month outfit or, costume or whatever, because that's the thing we're supposed to do.
4th of July, red, white, and blue. No, it's kidding.
We're talking, what do you... I feel like, have you been drinking? Is there tequila
in there? No, there's nothing in there. But that's just funny to me.
Your comments today are so throwing me for a loop. I think I need to...
Red, white, and blue. Go.
Yes.
Which is supposed to be the Independence Day.
So what does that have to do with what we're talking about? Just so I know where your thoughts are going.
You said people doing things just because. And there's corporations just do things just because. They'll put the Thanksgiving decorations up just because, with no thought behind it. They'll put the Christmas stuff up with just no thought behind it. The Halloween is no thought. It's no, what's going on.
It's performative. Right. They're doing it to get the check on the box. They're doing it to get the check on the box.
Right.
Versus, this is something that for us is going to be interesting as we continue to grow. We started as one coffee shop, and now we're on our way to opening up our 4th coffee shop. And, next year, we know we're going to open up at least 2 more for sure.
Maybe 3.
Yeah, but we know 2 more for sure.
I got to stop interrupting you. Go.
But it's something we have to think about as we grow, because every community that we're in, even though the majority of them are all South LA based, they're still a little bit different. Right. So this is where you get into that hyper local, micro cultural reverence, right? Of what are the
little thing around that little, that little mile radius.
Yeah.
What happened in that community?
Yeah.
Have the cafe show some representation of that.
It's like a wink, wink. It's like an inside joke, or inside little story where people can come in. Like we're about to open up in our West Adams Jefferson Park location, which has its own deeply rooted tradition and history specific to it. It's not exactly the same as King and Western, it's not going to be the same as Baldwin Hills. Every location is going to have a little bit of this hyper local, cultural reverence that we need to tap into about how do we figure out what the pulse of this unique community is, so that the people who have been here for a long time, or the people who used to live here when it, before it got displaced, can come to our cafe and go, oh my God, this is not a gentrifying effort. This is not a company that's growing and expanding and just taking up space to take up space, because that's never been what we wanted to do. We always wanted it to be very intentional. Like our locations are community catalyst. This is a community center that we're opening up that happens to serve coffee.
Yeah, because we have the formula. We could just pop these open, but that's not our intention.
But then it's like, for what? You lose the why, you lose the mission, you lose the heart and soul. It dilutes the overall brand anyways. From a business perspective, it's not exactly the smartest thing anyways, because then it's like, what's special about that?
Saturated.
Just being like, oh, I can go anywhere and there's South LA Cafe. Okay, cool. But,
that's a good thing in the sense, because we're going to get great customer service and good tasting coffee.
Yeah. If that's all that the world needed was great customer service and good tasting coffee, if that would solve big social issues.
Not, but it get it started.
I know. This is where you and I
disagree.
Not disagree. It's nuanced.
It's because we're not the same people.
No. And that's what makes this all so special. Yeah. So
where's my chain at?
It's underneath there. No, you didn't have your chain out the whole time. How was my chains looking?
Yours look. You just be put together, man.
I'm just
Jesus
pulling
Christ.
It together. Got my.
Ooh, and your new tint to your hair.
My new strawberry color hair.
Strawberry.
Whatever.
I like it.
I'm a ginger now. Are you allowed to say that? I don't know.
No, you can't say that.
I can't.
Well, you can.
I think you can. I don't know.
But it's not. It doesn't. Ginger was
So
fine as you.
Ginger
didn't
from
do it for
Gilligan's
me.
Island.
Yeah, she didn't do it for me. That's
You
a
like
trip.
Marianne?
I like Marianne more
The girl
because
next
she was
door.
just like real. She wasn't the girl next door. She was fine, but she was just real. Ginger was.
Okay.
Ginger didn't seem smart to me.
All right. Sounds good, Mr. Professor. Was
I
that
used
his
to
name?
watch Gilligan Island, man, like religiously. The only thing on TV.
Okay, you're dating yourself with the
Where are
Gilligan.
the black people?
There were none.
Nipsey Hussle came on there once.
What?
Or Nipsey Russell. Not Hustle. Nipsey Russell, I think, was on Gilligan Island once. Check that fact, people.
You had to pull the thread through for
Yes.
the episode. Okay, so stop there.
Yes.
Stop there before you tangent into something else. But that's a great pulling it through for this episode. So as we close up on the first of 4 areas of access and equity that we focus on at South LA Cafe, let's just revisit. We've been talking about cultural reverence and the importance of it, cultural creation, cultural preservation, the blend of those. And, how do we revere a culture? How do we, put it on its pedestal that it deserves,
Right.
and create those roots so that it lives on, it has a legacy. It's never forgotten, right? How do we do that? How have we done that? Why is that important? That's what we've been talking about today. So any last thoughts or lessons that you want to share as a takeaway or something that you that's come up for you in this conversation before we close it out?
I can tell you what still just resonates from the beginning of this is like, the grind. I'm sorry. It is. We're going to grind. We're still going to do it. But what comes from it is we're going to grind and get up earlier than you. We're going to work harder than you. But we're going to still keep it. We're going to keep it representing. That's what came up today for me.
We're going to do that for our people.
Yeah.
We're going to grind. We're not going to grind harder than them. It's not a competition.
Well, I don't mean it like that. I just mean, and I don't mean them.
No, I know you don't mean our community. I'm saying
harder than the other ones that I think are better than me in my crazy little head.
Right.
I got to get up earlier than them. I got to work harder than them. That's what I'm talking about. That's what you asked me. What came up for me.
Right. And I'm just pulling through that. I think that ultimately the benefit that is received from that is ultimately for the community.
Our community
the
gets
impact
a nice
for the community, and they get the love, the reverence that you bring as a native, South Central Angelino here, right?
And when they see local treats and local foods in our cafes, they know why. I'm working hard.
Always working hard. I love that. Okay. Well, let me think about my key takeaway or lesson learned from the conversation.
Did I interrupt you?
That's my key takeaway that you interrupt me.
I'm going to work on that, folks.
Or they could watch you keep trying to work on it. Well, on this episode of In the Mix, we're going to watch Joe keep interrupting.
How many times does he do it?
How many times? It's like a drinking game.
Keep
Take a shot every time Joe interrupts Celia.
Ooh, no.
Take a shot of espresso.
There you go.
With a little tequila. That's going to be our cocktail. When we start doing cocktails, instead of the espresso martini with vodka, it's going to be with tequila. And then, we're going to have to create our own tequila brand. So for those listening in.
Coming to your store soon. No.
Absolutely. So my main takeaway that I'm sitting with from all of this is to not feel helpless and hopeless and disempowered by the changes that are happening in your community, and for you to find a way to be a part of actually really creating that reverence for your culture and your community, right? So whatever that looks like for you, is that through your writing? Is that through your art? Is that through your speaking? Is that through your service? Is that through your mentorship? Like, what does that look like for you? You can't change the whole system. We're working within an oppressive system. We're working within capitalism and white supremacy and imperialism and American individualism, and like all of these things are these pressures and these systemic things.
You don't have to assimilate.
Don't start. Don't
The more you talk, the more things are coming up for me. So
good. Well, take them to the next episode.
Okay.
So hold that thought. But I had something to say.
Okay.
Which is that I'm not saying we don't fight against the man and the systems, because we do. I'm saying everybody, we need that, right? So we can't just say, sure, I'm going to just go along because there's nothing I can do about it. No, we need to have grassroots and macro level impact to change systems. But on a day-to-day basis, it can feel extremely disempowering to live within those systems and feel like, what's happening to my culture? What's happening to my people? What's happening to my family? What's happening to me? And feel like, what can I do about that? And I think that we're an example of having those feelings and saying, what can we do about that? And yeah, we channeled that energy into tools that we had experience in, like starting businesses, but we've never done a brick and mortar before. That's brand new.
They all told us we were crazy to do this, but we said, we are. Thank you.
Yeah. But it can be just because you and I have a DNA and a blueprint for like this macro masses kind of impact. Like that's just who we are. Like we're very big thinkers, and we're like, if anybody can do it, it's us. We're going to go big or go home, but that's not for everybody. And so I don't want people to feel like because they're not like that, they can't have impact. You can have impact on a very local, individual, one-on-one level.
Or join us.
On that note, or join us. Join on in, southlacafe.com.
Join us.
Find a way to join us. We got a million different ways that you can get involved. We'd love to have your help. And on the next episode of In the Mix podcast, we're going to talk about the second area of focus, which is all about food justice. We like to talk about that.
In the mix.
It's a wrap. Hey fam, if you're hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode of the In the Mix podcast. And for that, we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We hope you enjoyed this new episode. And if you did, please take 1 minute to hit the subscribe button to catch all future episodes. And then please give us a 5-star review. Also, if you want to support our Black and women-led multiracial movement to fight social, economic, racial, and food inequity, please head to our website, southlacafe.com, where you can become a monthly member, sponsor groceries, volunteer, buy merch and coffee, and make a tax-deductible donation. Sending you lots of peace, love, and blessings from our family to yours.